When you want to create an incident report, very simple, the green button, Create Incident Report, brings up the screen for entering information. You are guided with an asterisk on any field that must have information entered, so if you try to save and have not completed these fields, it will give you an error and remind you you need to complete the fields. You can enter the time. You don't need to be completely specific. You can round it to the nearest quarter hour or the nearest time of whatever that occurred. Your incident types. You have several choices here. This is based on where the incident occurred. So even if they are speaking to you in 3rd North or whatever residence hall you're in, if what they're telling you about is an incident that happened off campus or in another building, you would use one of these two incident types. The majority of things that you document are going to be one of these res hall incident types. A res hall incident or issue is anything that doesn't fall into the other two. The residence hall roommate conflict is where you can document conversations that you have with some of your floor mates around concerns they may be having, particularly at the start of the year. Know that this incident type of roommate conflict is restricted in access. So when you choose a roommate conflict and document information there, that report is only visible to the appropriate staff in the Office of Residence Life and Housing Services. So our other institutional users who have access to Advocate will not see roommate conflict information if they do have access to see other residence hall information. So this is a new tool for those of you who are returning and an important incident type to be aware of. The other incident type is a residence hall requested check-in. If your hall staff or on-duty staff request you as the on-duty RA to check in on a resident and either confirm they're in their room or otherwise kind of follow up on a request from a professional staff member, this would be an incident type that you would use just to document the actions that you took upon request of a hall staff. But when in doubt, use the residence hall incident issue incident type, and if it needs to be changed, our hall staff would work on that. The next line, incident quick summary, very important line. It is character limited. This field is intended to give a quick snapshot of what is this incident about. It's important to know that this incident quick summary is used for reporting that is sent out to upper administration. So while it is a brief field, it does need to be complete information. For instance, if you have documented an incident that involved a party and things that were happening, you wouldn't just want to put alcohol in that field. What you would want to indicate as party that would be a simple case, a student conduct concern. The issues of concern, you can select more than one, and if the incident involves EMTs being called, a student being taken to the hospital for alcohol or substance-related over intake, this would be a concern you would want to make sure that you selected as well. The location of the incident will, in most cases, be whatever residence hall the incident occurred in. You can then provide additional detail for specific location. Please note that a couple of our buildings have multiple towers, and you'll see Carlisle's an example, and the towers are over here. For the purposes of incident reports, we're asking that you just use this main menu. So you would just select the Carlisle Court Residence Hall, and then your rooms may not show up specifically in here. If that's the case, you can type in the room number and any tower or other specific information for guidance purposes in this text field of specific location. You want to enter any NYU students who are involved, whether they're residents or not. Any student who has an N number is found here in the Students Involved section. To begin with, you just need to start typing the information of the student's name. You'll see that over here you saw a little symbol while it was thinking, and then the options show up here. There are a lot of options. You can add more information into this text field to narrow it down, and it will rethink and reduce the number of individuals that show up. in this case, you can also show portions of it. Then it goes specifically to the student that we're looking for. If there are others involved, such as non-NYU student guests or people who are present other than staff who are responding in the course of their duties, you can add that information by text, guest of B and whatever information they provided for you of their name. The incident description is essentially your narrative. This is where you're going to provide the who, what, when, where, all of the relevant information of the report. You want to be certain in this field that if you have specific information, statements that were said by staff members or by any of the students who are present, if you have a quote, put it in quotes and specify who it came from. If you're generalizing, make it clear that you're generalizing. You want to be sure that you state facts here. You want to avoid opinions and commentary. And remember some of the trigger words, things like a student who says they feel harassed or bullied. There should be a follow-up sentence explaining what that means. How did they describe that feeling, or what behaviors make them feel that way? The same for safe or unsafe. Part of our protocols are always wanting to make sure that students are safe in their environment. If they say they feel unsafe, there should be a description here explaining why they feel unsafe or what they described about that, so that the professional staff who are reading your incident reports can follow through appropriately and have that information. So be sure that your incident description includes also who's writing the report. It's helpful to indicate who you are and what your role was in this, so that it's clear when someone's reading the incident report, the whole picture of what happened here. As we move on, the rest of these are toggle buttons that need to be completed. The sensitive yes/no button can be used if a resident shares with you some information that you feel is kind of sensitive in the sense of it would make them uncomfortable to share it, or they've asked you specifically to not tell anyone. You will have explained to them that you really can't promise confidentiality, but you'll keep it private. You do need to report it up to your supervisors. The sensitive button, again, restricts the viewing. There are only certain professional staff members who can see any incident report that's marked sensitive, so that that's an option you have to help make sure you're sharing information up, but don't feel like you are providing information to others in the university that maybe shouldn't have that information. These 4 questions are pretty basic action questions. They help us with reporting purposes. Was the student taken to the hospital? That's a simple yes or no. Was there an arrest made? And again, these would be things that you would know if you were the person responding and you were there when the EMTs or NYPD responded. Was wellness or health contacted? That would, again, be something that you have personal knowledge of, that either you called the CRC or the CRC or professional staff member called you and asked you to connect the student to wellness. That's when you would mark this yes rather than no. Was public safety involved? Many times they will be. The extent of the involvement can be everything from the incident happened in the lobby and so the public safety officer was there and observed what happened, or it could be that you had to call public safety to confiscate contraband. Whether it's yes or no, you'll mark that. The next series of questions about things that may have been involved in the incident, these questions are all related to our required reporting for Clery. You'll get much more information about that in training, but these are the questions that help us be sure that we comply with reporting requirements under the Clery Act, and a reminder that you all as student staff members are obligated to provide this reporting of Clery incidents. This is how you do that. This is how you report it, is creating an incident report and making note of the appropriate responses here. So an alcohol policy law violation, this is really about a legal indication. If there is a resident who is over 21 but is in the lobby drinking a beer and we document that, that's a policy violation, but they're over 21. In that case, you could mark this no. When in doubt, if there's alcohol involved, you should be saying yes to this question. If there is any kind of controlled substance involved, you should be saying yes here. Otherwise, you would say no. Sexual assault or non-consent would be if anyone has reported to you in the course of whatever it is, the incident you're documenting, that something of this nature happened to them. You would put a yes in here. The same with sexual harassment. When in doubt of which of these might apply, you could mark yes to both of them, and professional staff reviewing these will help determine which it actually is. Does the incident involve a physical assault that either occurred or is being reported to you as part of this incident report? If so, this would be a yes. Theft, robbery, or burglary, again marking yes or no here. A note about the differences of these: typically a theft means that somebody's belongings were taken. A robbery indicates that there was some use of force, so the wallet being taken from a desktop would be a theft. The wallet being taken out of the hands of a resident would be robbery. And a burglary involves unlawful entry, so someone entered a room that wasn't theirs and then took things. Burglary frequently also involves some mode of forced entry, though it doesn't always have to. A weapon involved. Was there a weapon involved? Yes or no. And arson or setting fire. Was that a part of this incident? Yes or no. The question about bias or harassment could apply to any one of these other incidents, but was there a component to the incident that involved discrimination or bias on a protected status? This has to do with violations of our Title IX policy, as well as some of Clery. And so when in doubt, if you feel like somebody felt like that's what it was, it's okay to say yes, but somebody being made to feel uncomfortable or someone saying they were offended by what happened doesn't necessarily mean that it was a bias incident. It needs to be based on a protected status, such as those that are described here when you indicate that. Now that all of these fields are completed, you can either save, which will keep you on the incident, or submit, which will save the incident and take you back. Both of these are steps that will save the information that you have created. If you save as draft, you should really only do that if you're being interrupted and you know you're going to come back and finish the report. When you save as draft, it sits where only you can see it. No professional staff other than the administrator of the system can see that report until you have saved or submitted it. So the preference is typically that you would save or submit. When you save, it brings you out to this is what your report looks like. So at this time you can realize that I didn't finish writing my incident description. I need to go back and add some detail there. You have the ability to go back in and edit your incident report and add more detail. Again, same options. When you save, it will then save the report.